to welcome you today to this show or event that we're having, where we're trying to bridge the communities. And this event wouldn't have been possible without the help of PyLadies Munich, who is represented by Laisa, as well as PyLadies Tunis, where we have 3 other fantastic co-organizers from. And it took some time. So here they are.
Mona.
Hello.
Amal and Hedia. And we're really excited to have you here tonight. And giving you some kind of a background why we started this idea with the event is basically we're working in both languages. We're working in Python and we're working in R, and we enjoy working in both languages. And we like the communities that are behind these languages. And we thought, why not create an event where we bring both together and show you how beautiful it can be and how advantageous it can be to code and work in both languages. And we hope the spirit will kind of inspire some of you to continue working in both languages. And without any further ado, I will quickly walk you through the agenda. What we're having here tonight is, first, we're having obviously our fantastic speakers, Rhian and Deena, who both work bilingually and who will tell us about their challenges and experiences. Rhian will present a package that they recently introduced, Diffify, and Deena will tell us how MLflow helps them in their teams to track their models. And with that, we're also having a little chance for you to test your knowledge, to learn more about both languages by playing 2 quiz rounds with us. And for these quiz rounds, we obviously, because incentives always work, right? We're having some prizes. The first quiz round is sponsored by O'Reilly's, and they're giving away 3 ebook vouchers where you can pick and choose an ebook that you'd like for the first 3 winners. And the second round is sponsored by Ivan, who give away 3 gift prize vouchers. I'm not sure, Liza, is Ludmila already here, or should we skip the Ivan introduction?
We can skip for now, and when she jumps in, we can show a little bit about her presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. No, stay here, please, because it's going to be you. Because then we'll skip, and it's going to be you who will introduce PyLadies Munich.
So, hello everyone, my name is Laisa Ochoa. I organize PyLadies Munich together with Olga and Anton Caceres in the city of Munich. Here you can find our Twitter account if you want to follow us. Some good news, we are back in September for in-person event, so I hope to see you all there. We'll have an international speaker coming only for this event, so it will be very nice. And it will be a pre-Oktoberfest. I count you there. And I'm happy to see you in person again. This is a little bit about us. You can enter in our Slack, PyLadies International channel for the city of Munich, and you can contact us from the munich@pyladies.com email. Thank you very much.
Perfect. And with that, we're handing over to PyLadies Tunis.
Hello, Mona. Maybe you want to say some words? Okay.
Yeah. We are very happy to see this number of people interested in our meetup. I'm Amat Lili, a data scientist and a co-founder of PyLadies Tunis, along with Mona Belaid, a business intelligence data consultant, and Hidyat Nani, a data analyst. So we are among a network of Python practitioners in Tunis, Tunisia. We are very passionate about the Python programming. In fact, we are a part of PyLadies global community. We aim to provide a friendly support network for women and a bridge to the larger Python world. So anyone with an interest in Python is encouraged to participate. And again, thank you very much for joining us today.
And thank you. I'm sorry, I was taking the mic. I'm sorry for that. And with that, I'm kind of closing this round, and I'm presenting PyLadies Cologne. We were also founded in 2021, so last year, relatively young, but we already had a couple of really cool events, and we are part of the global PyLadies community. The PyLadies Cologne chapter is currently run by myself and Gabe Winter, and our events are all about RStuds coding, empowering women, career tips, and promoting gender diversity. And if, in case you want to join, feel free to reach out. It can be as a presenter, so we're always open for new topics, or also as a co-organizer. If you're from Cologne or the area and feel like, yes, this is my chance to jump in, just reach out. And with this, I'm handing over to Rhian, who works as a technical lead data scientist at Jumping Rivers, and who will tell us the tale of two languages.
Hopefully you can see my slides. Okay, yeah, so hi, I'm Rhian, and I work at Jumping Rivers. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what life is like working at a bilingual company. So Jumping Rivers is actually based in the UK. We're a data science and consultancy company. And although we're based in the UK, we work with big and small companies all over the world. What we actually do, we build a lot of shiny apps. We do a lot of Python development. So we do sort of data science consultancy. But we also have a really big data engineer team who help manage infrastructure and manage the RStudio professional products. And we deliver training courses on R, Python, and more recently, Tableau, Stan, H2O. So quick question to start. Would you ever list R on your Bumble profile or on your Tinder profile? Would you ever consider listing your programming language? Well, OkCupid, which was an online dating website, which is no longer around, in a data dump I found there, 1% of users actually listed C++ as their second spoken language. 1% of users. Now, I suspect this was perhaps the developers who were having a little bit of a play around, because actually the OkCupid website was built on C++. But it gets you thinking, you know, programming languages can become a big part of your identity. If someone asked me to introduce myself right now, I would say I'm Rhian. I'm a data scientist. I'm a statistician. I'm an R programmer. I'm an R lady. I'm a package developer. I guess I'd call myself a Python dabbler. Perhaps I'm a little bit Py curious. And, you know, how you define yourself, your language kind of gets very entangled into that. Yeah, have a think about yourself. If someone asks you, you know, what do you do, or what language do you program in, how would you introduce yourself? What do you say on your CV? Perhaps you're here thinking, you know, I really know Python, but should I learn R so I can go into a particular type of job? Or perhaps you're thinking, I'm an R user. Do I need to work out, could I go work for a company that uses Python? Is that possible? Jumping Rivers actually started, I would say, quite bilingual, but definitely more in the kind of R sphere, in that our kind of our CTO very much came from the R space rather than the Python space. What it looks like now in Jumping Rivers, I think the expectation is that we've got all these lovely data scientists that are kind of, you know, experts in R and experts in Python, and that we can switch from one language to the other interchangeably. So these are actually cartoons of all of our data scientists at Jumping Rivers. It's not like that. In reality, we're very much more of a diverse bunch. So I've put myself over here. I'm very much in the R camp, curious about Python, but, you know, I've dabbled, but no more than that. I don't develop in Python. So we've got a number of kind of people that are very comfortable in R and interested in Python. A couple of people that kind of dabble on the sides. And then we've got, you know, people like Jack over here and Russ that are quite comfortable in both and tend to jump between the two. And then developers over here that are much more comfortable in Python, such as Georgia and Parisa out here. So in reality, the this is what working at a multilingual or a bilingual company looks like. And you might want to think, where would you actually position yourself within this diagram? And of course, this diagram itself is a massive oversimplification, right? It's not just about R versus Python or R and Python. I could add another ring here to represent people's abilities or skills or enjoyment in terms of programming, using Git or programming in Bash. So there's kind of all these extra dimensions that you can't really, simplify down to who knows R and who knows Python. I guess, for example, if I wanted a really good visualizer, I wouldn't necessarily go to the developer who knows R the best or knows matplotlib the best. I know that Nicola's got a really good eye for design, so I'd probably go to that individual rather than stressing about their R versus Python skills, especially as the languages can both actually do a similar number of techniques in a really good way. Same with model fitting, right? Maybe I'd go to the person that's got that domain experience in that particular application that we were doing modeling in, rather than saying, oh, Python's better for modeling or R's better for modeling. So it's a little bit more complex than this, but yeah, we've got a broad spectrum, and trying to get all of these people to work together and communicate together can be quite challenging. And it feels particularly interesting to be talking about this and giving this talk today, given that a couple of hours ago, so the RStudio conference is happening right now over in Washington, DC. And about 3 or 4 hours ago, they announced that they're completely rebranding from RStudio to Posit to represent the fact that their tools support not just R and not just R and Python, but actually a wide range of languages and a wide range of tools, and that they want to move towards supporting multilingual or to push towards supporting more multilingual teams. So it feels really interesting to kind of be talking about this today. Okay, so 2 short projects I'm going to tell you about. First one is our training materials. So I guess a big chunk of what we do at Jumping Rivers is we deliver courses. So we teach people how to program from intro to R right through to kind of model fitting and PySpark. We've got about 30 different R courses and about 10 different Python courses. And all of the materials for our courses, the slides and the PDF notes, are all actually built in R Markdown. And the reason we decided to go for this is we wanted one standard format that we could easily make sure was consistent. And we wanted to standardize the kind of process, because actually we update our notes very regularly because the programming landscape changes constantly. And so it was really important for our pipeline to have a standard flow that our materials would go through regardless of the language. And that's becoming more and more important as we go from R and Python trainers to R, Git, H2O, Stan, Scala. We need a training material flow that can handle the different languages. In terms of how we do that, with R Markdown, it's really quite easy in that you can have these code chunks and you can put in all sorts of different languages. So it handles the R sections and the Python sections very easily. We use make files to actually compile our notes, and that allows us to just handle a few extra discrepancies that come up in terms of R and Python. Most importantly, we've got a big if statement, which says if we're teaching R, start our chapter count from 1, while if we're teaching Python, start our chapter count from 0, because we know that's important to the different communities. And how we actually teach the courses, well, we teach on the professional tool RStudio Workbench or POSIT Workbench, which actually allows R scripts to be used interactively, but also supports Jupyter notebooks. So we use a tool that enables kind of teaching within both spaces. The thing that works is that we have this one standard flow, which is great. The thing that doesn't work so well is that we then have, if we have multiple languages, we then have multiple style guides to follow, because in order to make sure our developers are working well together, we don't want to get over little arguments over, are you using the arrow operator or are you using the equals operator? And so we have clear style guides, but obviously doing that in multiple languages means we need to define and then maintain those multiple styling guides. It also means that since we often need R and Python to build our notes, it means that our Docker images get quite big for our CI pipeline, where we automatically deploy and test our training materials. So it just makes everything a little bit bigger. But generally, it doesn't actually get in the way. So Python programmers can go in and update the Python course within our Markdown without realizing they're touching R too much, which makes life a lot easier for everyone. So our training courses, like I said, using our Markdown, we found the easiest way to kind of communicate multi-language documents. And actually, again, our studio is rebranding our Markdown into Quarto, which is going to be a publishing document software that's just effectively a more flexible version of our Markdown and less centered on R. So we will probably in the next year actually migrate all of our training materials from our Markdown to Quarto. And I'm sure when we've done that, we'll write up a blog post. So if you're interested in seeing how that goes with our 50 plus courses, I will let you know our pains in our blog post. The other little project I want to tell you about is Diffify. So Diffify is a website and a tool that we've built, diffify.com. And what it does is it compares different R package versions. So as an R user, I'm quite often developing some code with one version of an R package, and I might send it to my client, and perhaps they're getting a bug because they're using a different version of an R package. And I want to understand what's changed between those two versions. So we've built this website where you can go and look and type in an R package, say dplyr, and I can select any two versions I like. And it will show me not just the news differences, but it will show me the dependency differences for that R package, any changes to the functions, so new functions that have been added and functions that have been removed or functions that have been changed. And even lets me kind of compare at the argument level what's changed and what hasn't. So I think quite a useful tool for me to quickly debug and understand different challenges. So a tool to help you analyze R packages. This is entirely written. Let me just go back to presenting mode, sorry. Presenter view. This is entirely written in Python, apart from about 5%. Why? I mean, I'd love to say that we sat down and had a decision and went, actually, you know, for this type of challenge, we need Python or something a little bit more nuanced. The truth of it is we had 3 lovely summer interns with us and they were all more comfortable in Python than R. So we got them to write it in Python. It's as simple as that. Now, there is a little bit of R that's used within the Diffify, the back end of Diffify. And the reason that we had R code as well as Python code to build this is because a large part of what we're doing in Diffify are parsing 2 of the main files in R packages. So 2 of the main files are the news file, so that we can make those comparisons, what's changed from version to version, and what we call the namespace file, which is effectively a way of listing the functions that are available to the user. Now, we could have gone and written code to read or to parse those scripts in Python, but someone had already done it in R, and it made a lot more sense to actually run that in R rather than rewriting the functions in Python. And so we use the rpy2 package to call R code. So in Python, we call rpy2 to actually hop over, run the R code. We have to do a little bit of sort of transformation to sort of pass the different object types from R to Python. And then we pass that back into the Python code, which generates the kind of diff that you see at the end. Again, challenges. Well, I guess the benefit was we were able to use some of these functions from R rather than having to rewrite them in Python. One of the downsides perhaps is that, again, Docker images, we had to get bigger. So, we need to be able to have R and Python available. And I guess one thing to mention here as well is, although Diffify only has an R section at the moment, we are working on a Python tab. So hopefully by the end of this year, you should be able to also compare Python libraries on diffify.com as well. So that should appear hopefully near the back end of this year. Okay, so my last slide. What's life actually like at a bilingual company? How do we make it work? I'm really lucky in that I work with people that I really just enjoy developing with and learning from each day. I work with some really interesting, great colleagues. And so we manage that struggle of how do you keep up to date with all the latest developments, because we constantly kind of share our learnings with each other. So we have a tech talk chat every Thursday afternoon. We're constantly posting kind of best practices within our Slack general development channel. And I think that really helps us manage that kind of multiple languages, because we're constantly interested in each other. And we do respect each other as well, which I think really helps. Having rules helps avoid the language wars. So, for example, our style guide, we just use the equals operator for assignment in both R and Python. And that helps people who are switching between the two all day. And it just makes things easier for our kind of style guides. We also put in rules like, not just, when you should develop something in R, but we have quite strict guidelines around what an R package developed by Jumping Rivers looks like, or what Python code developed by Jumping Rivers looks like. And adding those rules and processes and specifying those just helps people and helps us just all get along. I would say that bilinguality really influences the way that we code and we teach. So our developers that came more from a Python background definitely bring a kind of OOP approach to their R code development, while our R programmers who have come to Python can make really good comparisons when we're teaching. So if you're teaching Python programmers how to use R and you've already done a little bit of Python, you can empathize with the people you're teaching and draw on comparisons. But I think that the big thing is, I didn't really think of us as a bilingual company until asked to give this talk, because I just think of all of these awesome people I work with as just being really talented at that thing they do. And the language is kind of, not actually a huge part of how I see them. They're just my workmates and they're awesome. That's all I wanted to say. Other than if you happen to be in the UK or want to pop over to the UK in October, we're actually running an in-person conference on Shiny in October, and it'll be lovely to meet some of you there in person. Thanks.
Excellent. That's fantastic. That was a really cool talk. And thanks for walking us through Diffify. I think Amal will take over the Q&A, because I've seen plenty of questions popping in the chat.
So first, thank you, Rhian, for your fantastic presentation. So we have some question here. First is from Dennis. Is there anything in R or Python that you would only do in the one language but not in the other?
So that's quite a personal question. Like I said, I'm more of an R developer and a Python dabbler. But in terms of, when other people ask this and I think about what R and Python can do, at the moment, no. I mean, people used to say R's better for statistics and Python's better for web scraping. That's not the case anymore. So really nothing honestly comes to mind, Dennis, but personally R is my go-to because that's where my fingers go.
Okay, great. So we have another question from Ruth. Do you have any tips for us to respect each other with other people that code in different languages, since sometimes people can be a little bit defensive toward the language they use?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ruth. Again, I'm quite biased in that within my company, everyone's just nice to each other. So weird. I think it's important to remember what it was like when you were starting a language and try and keep that in mind. And just, I think for me, getting involved in both communities. So like I said, I don't really actively develop in Python, but I always go to my local PyData meetup. So actually engaging in those communities helps you naturally gain respect for each other.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question too. What would you recommend for people who are switching from one language to another? What worked for other people that you saw, like they would to R to Python, Python to R?
I think the thing, I tell you when I see it go wrong and where it went wrong for me. So my first job out of my PhD, I applied for a company that only developed in Python because I was comfortable in R and I thought I want to learn Python. And unfortunately, when I got there, the reality was no one programmed in Python, the team that I worked in. You've got to work on a real project that means something to you for you to learn that hurdle and step away from your comfort zone. So what we often do with our attendees is we either make space for them to work just in that language by booking like a one-on-one Q&A with me, where I say, look, we are only using R today, or we are only using Python today. And that accountability helps. Or what I say in teaching is, if you're learning R for the first time from a Python background, just try and use R for a tiny bit of that project you're working on, not the whole thing. So if you're a Python programmer and you're trying to learn R, don't try and do your old work entirely in R. Try and read your data in R and just manipulate one or two columns and then put it into Python. And because when your boss comes and says, I need that now, you're going to always naturally lean in the language that's more comfortable. So small steps.
And I have the feeling, for example, when I learn a new language, I understand the one that I'm better more. Because for example, I say, I don't know, I understand, why is this like this in Python? Why is this different in another language?
Oh, it helps so
reason.
much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree.
Okay, for me, I have the same question as Cosima, which said, will there be something similar like Diffie for Python libraries? Or is there already something like this is there?
Like Diffie for Python libraries? Yes, sorry. So we're going to implement Diffie for Python. We're working on it at the moment.
Great.
So hopefully by the end of the year, you will be able to do the same thing in Diffie. It's coming soon.
Yeah, because
probably just follow us on Twitter if you want to know when it's coming out.
Yeah, okay. So because I have this problem with the version of Python, that's why. Okay, I have another question from Islam, which say that which language is better to start with, R or Python?
That's a trick question based on the question Ruth just asked about language wars.
Yeah.
Islam, the best language to start with is the one that's on your computer right now, or the one that you have the most friends or community with, right? So the R ladies community, and in fact the R general learning community is great. The Python learning community is great. Get yourself in whichever one of those communities is more accessible to you and start with that language. Unless you have if you're in a company that only uses R or only uses Python, but yes, start where you've got support. How can you help with Diffie for Python, Sergey? That's awesome. So we have a repository. If you search on Diffie on GitHub, you'll find us there. If you spot any issues, feel free to ping some issues and we'll start maybe some merge requests there. But at the moment, it's just a front end for dropping issues, but we can reach out to you there. Be lovely to work with you, Sergey.
Okay, so I have another question here from Dennis, which said, do you have any experience in performance and speed when transferring objects from R to Python and back instead of sticking to one language only?
Yeah, try to think about that. Probably not personally. I mean, obviously, we made that design decision as part of Diffie. We weren't transforming back and forth massively, right? There wasn't a huge transformation. The issue there wasn't actually more performance or speed that was an issue. And in fact, the speed constraints are more our continuous pipeline, Dennis, in terms of installing the Python and R dependencies for our testing infrastructure, rather than the actual the performance. So that was more the bottleneck there, I think.
We are running out of time, but I think we had a lot of questions and people are really interested. Actually, I didn't try air, but now that you gave some tips, I may even give it a try myself.
Well, if you want some help, come find me on Twitter. I can point you to some great places to start. Thanks, Lasha. Thanks, Amal.
And if you like Rhian talk, you can always follow her. Here's her Twitter. It starts Rhian, correct? And if you didn't ask question now and you want to ask question directly to her, just say hi there. So I'll put Cosima now. Thank you, Amal, for random the questions. And thank you so much for your talk.
Thank you, Rhian. Bye.
Thank you. And I will do the smooth introduction of Muna, who will have the first quiz with you and will tell you how Menti, if you haven't used it, or Mentimeter works. So Liza, can you put perfect? Excellent. Hi, Muna.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Ryan, for your presentation. That was so incredible, and I have learned a lot from you. Let's go now for the interesting part. We'll start playing. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So for the first round, we'll have the chance to win some ebooks offered by Relay. So we want to thank them so much for their support. Normally, the link for the quiz should be shared on the comments section, either on LinkedIn or YouTube. So please feel free to join. Now I will start sharing my screen and I will go to the platform. Okay, just make sure to share with you the link for people.
But yeah, let's
LinkedIn.
give it a time
Yes.
for people to enter, right?
Absolutely, yeah, we'll wait for them. So here is the platform. If you need to join, so either we will join the platform using the link, or just you can use this QR code. Normally it should be displayed on the screen. Okay, so to be able to check if people are here, I need to go to this slide, the next one. Okay, so we have already 4 people. Maybe need to join, need to wait for. Start by 2 trial questions. So it's just that you can get familiar with the platform. Then you will have 3 other questions on which will be, so the result will be based. Okay. Okay, I can, you have already like 20, 15 people maybe. I think it's okay. I can start. So what about the first question? Okay, you need to go fast to earn points. This is the idea. So for this first round, we'll have 3 winners. Okay, let's start. Okay, you need to answer fast to gain more points. This is the point. So what's the logo of Python? Just look at the logos that are displayed. You just have like 15 seconds to answer. You have 3 simple options. Normally this is simple question. Later we'll go for a bit harder questions, I would say. Okay, only 5 seconds left. And now time is up. Okay, for sure the right answer is the one who is on the right side. Let's have a look at the leaderboard. Sorry. Okay, this one should be the before. Yes, this one should be the logo of Python. Yeah, nice job, Earthman. So please, as we like we are still in the trial questions, please make sure to use your real name. Like it would be simple for us to identify you later, like a Twitter handle, maybe your email, or a name that would be clear for us. Because as there are prizes, it's better that you have real names. Okay, so make sure to have real names later. Let's go for the second trial question. Okay, so you get more familiar with the platform. The question number 2 is the following. It's coming. What's the logo of R? Okay, we have 3 simple options. Take your time. We have 15 seconds. Okay, I hope that you are drawing the quiz. And later you need to focus more because we'll have other questions a bit harder. Okay. So time is up. The right answer should be the one on the left side for sure. This is the logo of R. Okay. What about the leaderboard? Let me check the names. Yeah, good job, Rhian. Okay, I can see good names here. Okay, nice job. So I hope that you get familiar with the platform now. Like we'll start, I will start asking like just 3 other questions. Okay. So the result should be based on these the following 3 questions. The first one is the following. Okay, what are specific development environments for Python and R? So you have 3 options. I mean, there is no specific integrated development environment, or maybe RStudio and VS Code, or it could be RStudio and PyCharm. So it's okay. Time is up. Let's go and have a look at the answers. The right one should be RStudio and PyCharm. So if you you are looking for something maybe mature, specific, and well configured for Python, that PyCharm is the way to go. Okay, and for R, it should be RStudio. So the best moment is here. Let's have a look at the leaderboard. Okay, so who is the first one for now? It's okay. Everything is same. So Veronica is the first one. Then you have Ixao. I hope I'm spelling it well. Sorry if it's not. And then Verena was the third one who is the fastest. Okay, good job. And hard luck for the others. So the fourth question would be the following. Okay, as always, you need to answer fast to get points. Which packages can you use to call the other language? Okay, what about the first option? Reticulate to call Python, or rpy2 to call R, or so it could be maybe hey Python to call Python, or ip2 to call R, so the same option. And then you cannot like call R for Python. What do you think? Okay, time is up. So let us look at the right answer is the following. So reticulate, you can use the reticulate library to call Python and rpy2 to call R. So it would be really amazing. Just imagine that you are using maybe pandas, it's your favorite library in Python, and you can use it in R. So I highly encourage you to do that. Okay, let's have a look now at the leaderboard. So let me see. Okay, so now you have the points. And yeah, I can see. Oh, so Ixao is now the first one. And then you have Suzanne, it's coming. And then Verena. Okay, good job. So let's go for the last question of this first quiz, because later we have another one, okay? So the last question here is the following. How do you assign objects in R and Python? So here it's like about having a good coding style. Maybe it could be so about using the arrow as a variable assignment operation, or it could be the equal, or it could be maybe for both languages it could be the equal sign. Okay, so the best answer is the one on the right, on the left, side. Yeah, should be this one. So the equal sign like can be used instead of the arrow for assigning values to variables, and usually it is used for binding values to parameters in functions which cannot be done with the arrow operator. Okay, so the leaderboards, and the winners are, yeah, because that was the last question. So here it comes. Yeah. Okay, so the first winner is Verena. Okay, nice job. Congratulations. And then comes Veronica S. And then Suzanne. So for this part, for this round, first round, we have 3 winners. Congratulations. And please contact later. So the email address should be displayed on the screen. PyLadies, Cologne at PyLadies.org to get more details and to choose your ebook. Okay, so I will stop sharing my screen. And yeah, congratulations. So
Wow, such a game. It was fast. Not everyone could enter. I see it here in the chat.
oh, sorry,
Sorry,
well,
I see
I was not
Susan could not
able to see it.
enter. But Susan, you can enter in the next quiz. So we'll have another quiz, and you can enter from the beginning, because I think once it starts, it's very hard for you to enter and still have chance to win. So I see some people saying congratulations. Wow, who won? Who won? Maybe the winner want to say hi. But yeah, just as a short note, if you won, please enter in contact with colons@PyLadies.org. And if you didn't won, you can still win. Join the next quiz. How did you like it, Anna? Was that exciting?
Yeah, it was clear that I was excited. Yeah, I like it. I hope that people also like it.
I would say it was fast and furious.
Absolutely.
But congratulations, all the winners. And thank you for Aral for bringing up these books for us, right? So now we're
Yeah,
gonna
thank you so
move
much.
forward. I will bring Cosima also here. And I will remove us.
Yeah,
Thank you. I will again do kind of the smooth transition to, I think it's Muna, basically,
Yeah,
who will introduce Deena,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, right. So I will just go to this slide. Oh, sorry, it should be this one. What I have done here.
You can continue, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's move now to our second speaker. You are so pleased to be hosting today Deena Gergis, who will share with us her experience about MLflow. So let me first introduce her. So Deena is an award-winning AI expert whose ultimate purpose is to offer a better quality of life to people using AI. And so during the first half of her career in academia and research, Deena researched machine learning algorithms to diagnose and treat various types of cancer. And during the second half of her career in industry, Deena has successfully helped multiple German and multinational companies to apply machine learning to develop cutting-edge products in a wide variety of verticals, including like sales, marketing, pricing, and that's so cool. So Deena is currently a lead data scientist at Bayer. In her current role, she combines the best from academia and industry to develop AR products. So I'm sure that we will learn a lot from her today. Thank you, Deena, and the screen is yours.
Thank you, Anna, for the introduction, and thank you for the quiz. It was fun to participate, and then the fast clicking, that's always the trick. Thank you very much for having me here. So very briefly, before I jump into MLflow, let me tell you more about my background with R and Python. Because as Mona mentioned, I had two big parts in my career. One was academic, and it was focused on cancer research, and this is where I mostly used R. And then I switched to industry, and this is where I mostly use Python. So it's very different between one working environment and the other, as Ryan was saying, that it could be that your company is working with R or your company is working with Python, and then you just switch. which is completely fine and completely fun. I also learned to transition between R and Python. I guess it took me a month or something maximum. So in the first company, they completely knew that I didn't use Python. And that was 2015, if I remember correctly. That was my first industrial job. And my colleagues were super kind to actually teach me how to use Python. And of course, with lots of Stack Overflowing, we all do that. I mastered Python, I think, within a month, 2 months top, until I completely switched between both. There was always those things that's much, much better to do in R. There's always those things that are much better to do in Python. But at the end, being flexible to move from one language to another, this is something that is very powerful, because when you see it, it helps your mind grow more flexible. It helps your mind see what can be different between one language and others. So it's totally recommended, and I would very much recommend it. This is very briefly about my story in the two languages, and today I will also present a tool that works in both languages or in Python, which is the MLflow. And now let me share my screen. Hopefully, share screen.
I don't see your screen. Is it sharing already? Oh, okay. Now I see it.
Now,
I will add it
hopefully.
here. Yes.
Perfect.
So I'll add it here.
And let me swap the displays. Unfortunately, I now do not see you. So if there's anything, please interrupt me using the audio, because I cannot see the browser. But let's then dive directly into the MLflow. And before jumping into MLflow, let me introduce you what Bayer and who Bayer is. So I'm a lead data scientist at Bayer, and we have a very meaningful purpose that we work for every day, and this is health for all, hunger for none. So super briefly, Bayer is consisted of 3 different divisions. Consumer health, where I proudly work for, and I'm biased towards consumer health. This is where we empower people to improve their everyday health through everything that's over the counter. For example, nutritionals, painkiller, aspirin, allergy medications, and I'm sure you know lots of our products and have used them. We also have pharma, and this is where we produce the prescription drugs. And there's lots of super advanced drugs that we use. I have been, unfortunately, I got a problem with my leg, and by far, byproduct was the best product. And the third division is crop science, and this is where we produce the seeds, fertilizers, and everything that helps the hunger for none and helps the farmer have a better day and provide us with better food. So this is very briefly what Bayer is. Also, a shout out to the very inclusive community we have there. So we are inclusive in every sense. We are a very international company. So we, being an inclusive and diverse company is a part of who we are. But also to point out one of the things that are very, and organizations that are very close to my heart, that's the women data science. We have women data science at Bayer, and we inspire, attract, grow, and champion women who work in data science. I have been awarded last year the Distinguished Women in Data Science, and I'm very honored to see such amazing women working in our companies. But now to the main part, and this is basically why we're here now and what's MLflow. So I'll go through a typical life cycle of a data scientist. I'm sure lots of you will relate, regardless of which language you work. If it's Python, if it's R, if it's even a third language, I think you'd relate to this very much. So you started a new project and you start a notebook or a script. You start writing some code using some data. Afterwards, you build a pre-processing pipeline that processes the data. You think about training, starting with a very simple model. Let's say something like linear regression, for example, or logistic regression, where you don't need for now any hyperparameter tuning. And then you evaluate how well this model is performing. And you also have some output like plots, files, pickle files, and so on. And this is basically the first round, but we all know that the first round usually doesn't work that well. So you go on the second round and have a new notebook with a new data source that you integrated using the same pipeline. And afterwards, you have a new evaluation matrix of how your new model that has 2 data sources is performing, but also new outputs of the new data. And then the third round comes. So you think, okay, maybe the model is too simple and we want to improve the evaluation or the accuracy of the model. So why not use a third model? So you start a new notebook, maybe build a new pipeline because you want to manipulate and filter the data differently. You train a new model and you set new hyperparameters that has new accuracy and evaluation metrics and also an output. But then because working together is more fun than working alone, your colleague comes in and says, okay, why don't we try a third model that could even improve the accuracy more? So she starts a new notebook, adds a new data set, creates her own preprocessing pipeline, trains a new model with its own hyperparameter tuning that has a new evaluation metric and new output. And the cycle goes on and on and on in the experimentation until afterwards comes a very big question mark. Okay, we're now done with the experimentation. What should we put in production? So usually the choice is easy. I'll tell you the answer now. Choosing the best model is basically picking the model that has the best performance. And let's say this model was the one with the best performance. Now comes the trick, and this is basically where did this model come from? Because in principle, maybe it was the first one that we've set at the hyperparameter that used the second preprocessing pipeline that combined those two data sources that came from the second notebook. That produced the second output. Is that correct? And this is exactly the question and the challenge. And this is actually where the fun starts, specifically for the, if anyone here is an ML engineer, it's pain to actually link that back. And it's a major source of bugs that we see in production. So I have some good news, 2 pieces of good news for you. A, you're not alone in the suffering. So if you've ever worked on a big project that needs to go to production and have multiple cycles of experimentation and complex data sets, you know the suffering of fixing everything to put in production at the end, and you're not alone. The second point is there is a way out of that, and this is basically MLflow. I will introduce, I think this would be the fastest technical demo that will be ever done. So I will introduce MLflow super quickly. What is MLflow? It's at the end an open source platform that manages this whole machine learning lifecycle. Pointing out 2 of the very important parts that we have in MLflow. It is basically working with all languages, and we will point out today how it works with both Python and R. And it has multiple modules, but today we will just focus on the tracking to get you started quickly and see how it's working. And then you can further dig deeper into the tracking itself and into the other modules. So before we start, how does MLflow tracking works? And it's actually very simple. The whole idea is that you start with an experiment. An experiment could be your project. So for example, you're working on sales forecast, or you're working on marketing performance or marketing mix model, whatever or pricing, whatever the project is, you can have it as an experiment. And with every experiment, you have multiple runs, as we've seen. And you keep track of every run in a separate entity. So we had the first run where we just tried the baseline model, afterwards the second run, and this is different, afterwards the third run, and you can have any number of runs that you want. And what do you actually log in each run? You can log basically 3 things. You can log the matrix, and this is any evaluation matrix that you want to have. So accuracy, precision, mean square error, root mean square error, the map, whatever you want to have in terms of matrix, this is something that you can flexibly log, and we will see how. Also the parameters, so which parameters have you actually used for this model and what was the best parameters used? This is something that you can store and log. And the third part is the artifacts, and the idea of the artifacts, anything that can be stored in a file. So this can be data file, CSV, feather file, pickle file, JPEGs, whatever can be stored on disk, this can be an artifact. And in principle, one experiment can have multiple runs. Each run can have multiple logs that include those 3 big categories: the matrix, the parameter, and the artifacts. Simple enough, yet makes our life much, much, much easier. So how does it look like in R and Python? This is actually screenshotted directly from the MLflow. Worth mentioning here, MLflow was first developed by Databricks. I think currently Apache is taking care of the maintenance, but I'm not quite sure about this information. I've heard about that, so shout out to Databricks as well for doing a good job. And those codes are actually taken directly from their quick start. So I do recommend visiting their quick start. And in principle, how does MLflow look like in Python? Very simply, as we've mentioned, we can log three major parts, the parameter, and as you see here, it's very simple, like loading the library MLflow and then calling MLflow log parameter, passing the name of the parameter and passing the value. That's it. Same way here is MLflow log metric, and this is basically putting which metric you have in its number. That's it. And logging any output file. And this can be basically here he is or she is writing the output file. And then we are storing this version of file. That's it. How does it look in Python? Not too surprisingly, very familiar and very common, very similar to what is in R. So here also we load the MLflow from Python, but we just load some functions directly. But you can also have import MLflow and then afterwards say MLflow.log metric. So it's even more similar to R. And afterwards, we can also log the parameters and you can see how similar the syntax is in this case. We're just calling this function and we're passing the name of the parameter, and just in this case, he logged or she logged a 5. In this case, we're just logging a random integer. And this is basically the parameter. The same thing with the metric. So you call the function and then pass the name of the metric and the value of the metric. The same thing with the file. And this is basically where you also write the file, and afterwards you call the log artifacts and pass either the directory or the file itself. So you see it's very similar, even if you read it as an English text, it's super similar. And this is the beauty of lots of tools actually, and this what makes it easy to transition from one language to another. Because for example, I knew R very well, but then when I transitioned to Python, I found actually the pandas is almost a copy, and it is a copy of the data frames in R. So you might think that, okay, it's two completely different languages, but at the end, it's super similar. And when you get into the details, it's not that different after all. So let's jump into the code to just show you super quickly in 2 minutes how this would look like in real life. Let me open the PyCharm that I have for Python. So I'll just run super quickly through the notebooks here. And as you can see, all I'm saying here is that I want my experiment to be my MLflow tutorial. I'm tracking my experiments on disk. There are several ways to track that. And my model would be stored in the toy model.pickle, which is sort of a file that just stores the model. That's all running through the notebook. Quickly, I loaded some data. So this is what you see here, just and split it into train and test. Don't worry about that. And I have, and this is also where it's easy to read the language. So you see here, I have a very simple pipeline where I am having a standard scalar. So I'm normalizing my data and then having a PCA, but then the number of components or the variance that I want is different. And this is what I'm specifying in a variable here. And then very simply, I'm fitting a linear regression and just calling the dot fit, which basically trains the model on the training data. That's all. I want to play around with the variance of the PCA. So I'll start with, let's say, 0.8. Let's start with that. And all what I need to do is just run the fitting. And now I want to see how well the model is doing. So I'm calculating the mean square error. It's 31.8. And I'm just writing this model to the disk as a pickle file. And all we need to do afterwards is to say to the MLflow, this is where I want to track on disk, and this is basically the directory. This is the experiment name. So this is where what we have called previously as MLflow tutorial. And if I scroll down super quickly. And this is what I want to log. So if you remember in the slide, we've seen that there is an experiment, there are several runs, and each run would have either parameter, metric, or artifact. And we want to log in principle what's the variance that we've used, and this is the 0.8 that we've used. What's the mean square error of the model, and the file that we have stored in the model. And that's all. So let's run and see what would happen. So what if now I want to change this hyperparameter, let's say to 0.7? Not a good practice. I should restart my notebook and clear my output, because now we're running a different, having a different run. So let's clear the outputs and let's just run everything again, with now the parameter being the 0.7. Everything is fine. Now I have 37.49. I think it's even better than the previous run, but I'm not keeping track, because thankfully MLflow is keeping track for me in that, and it's stored as it is, all good. And afterwards, maybe let's try with the 0.9. So I'm playing with my parameters. Again, let's restore the notebook, double shift, clear all outputs, and let's run all. And now it's 31.8. So I am not keeping track, and it's good that MLflow is keeping track for that, and it's currently stored. Now, after I'm done with the experimentation, the soy experimentation, I want to see actually what I have logged. And this is where very simply, all I need to say is, okay, load this experiment and search all the runs in this experiment. Let's see what we have. I think there are 4 because I've tried to run one before the, you see it was 4 o'clock, but you see already that we have 3 runs, which were run now. And you see multiple properties of those runs. So you see, for example, what we've logged as a metric. And you see what was the PCA variance that we've used. You can see who ran the code. You can see the source name and so on. So in principle, if we would want the best model, we would simply just sort by the mean square error and pick the least, and this would be basically the 0.8, which we have. That's the one from the previous one, but you see that the numbers are identical. So this is the one that has the best performance. And since this is already logged, all I can say is, okay, pick the best run, which has the lowest mean square error. And this is basically the best run. And I can read the model back, and you can see that the model is already read as a 0.8. In 1 minute, to very quickly show you what is happening actually behind the scenes, because it's super simple as well. What's happening is that MLflow is having a directory, in this case, that has multiple runs. If I need to reload from this, now it's better. So we've seen that we have 4 runs, and simply it's keeping track of everything that has been saved in a folder that has a unique ID. That's it. Nothing more. So it's super simple, so super straightforward, and can be done. But if you want to go to the fancier and more recommended way to actually have a server, then you can actually have this very nice dashboard at the end that will visualize this data frame that we've seen into visual GUI that you can sort and filter and do all fancy things and monitor actually what's happening. Again, so going back to the bilingual part, as you see, it's easy to actually translate between one language and another. So despite that the tutorial has been in Python, you can directly translate it back to R using the same concepts of logging parameter, logging metric, logging artifact, starting with one experiment and having multiple runs. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time and attention, and if anyone has any questions.
Great talk. Thank you so much. I think we do have questions. Amalia's gonna take care of it. I will bring up these questions.
Yeah, hi Deena, thank you so much. It was a great presentation, an excellent demonstration. So we have, I think, 3 questions. First from Cosima. When would you start implementing using MLflow when building a data pipeline? During the POC as a default, or once everything is more or less?
So if I'm building a data pipeline in some sort of code, then Git would be the main tool that I would use to track the changes in the code. If I am using, for example, a custom filter on the data and I want to keep track of which data points I have used to actually train the model, this is when I would start using MLflow. So those are 2 parts. Is it the actual data that I want to keep track of in terms of which data have I used to train the model? And this is MLflow and this is direct. Or is it just the code simply? And in this case, definitely Git would be the choice.
Okay, thank you for your clear explanation. We have another question from Dennis. What is the best time, in your opinion, to start implementing MLflow? Right from the start, or after the POC, or somewhere in between?
Depends on the process and the dimension of the project. If sometimes we know that you will go in, do this exact model and then get done. If the project, and this is most of the cases that the project is more complicated, then I would really recommend from the beginning. And if multiple people are working on the project, then definitely this is something that's very needed to keep track of who's working on which model and how the performance was to get back to that. So in case of multiple people working on the project, in case that multiple runs and multiple experimentation rounds are needed. Those are the 2 cases.
Okay, thank you. And Rada, she asking, can you please share the code?
Sure. Let me send the link directly in the chat, so it's already available on GitHub. And
you
the
can send it to us, and we can send it to all of you from the administration here. But yeah, send it to us, and we can make sure that they can get the code.
Yeah.
I think they're curious. They want to run, because sometimes you see it, but it's better to run yourself, right?
I think once you go deeper and see how simple it is, and you run it a couple of times, it would even make more sense. I just dropped it in our chat.
Okay, thank you. Also, Suzanne, she was asking about the links.
And a lot of people are saying congratulations, thank you for your great talk. So thank you so much for the talk.
Happily.
We will share the links with you, everybody, soon. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was very great. I have learned a lot from you. Thank you, Deena. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Excellent. And this is kind of leading us to the last quiz round that we're having. Let me quickly see. Here we go. So feel free to join. You can use the QR code or go to menti.com and enter 5041 79 78 as a code. And while we're waiting for everyone to join, I will hand over to Liza to tell us something more about Ivan, who are the fantastic sponsors of this quiz.
So first of all, thanks a lot for Ivan sponsoring those gift cards and supporting our event. I just want to share a little bit about what Ivan does. So actually what they do is they manage open source databases for you. So it's quite a good talk about pipelines, because sometimes making the infrastructure yourself can be difficult. So yeah, we do manage open source databases for you. And you can take a look. I will share our Twitter account and some opportunities that are there. And we are hiring. So yes, I now call Cosima to take over the quiz. And I wish you all good luck.
Excellent, thank you. I'll quickly share my screen so that you can see the quiz again. I think There are few people who are already joined. I'll give it like 1 more minute to make sure that everyone who wants to join and who wants to win one of the prizes, like one of the 50 euros gift vouchers, has the chance to join. It's gonna be like 4 questions, so you don't have to answer 5, but 4. So it's a bit shorter, but not less fun. So let's see. I think we should be good to go. Excellent. Let's go. So again, as I said, you can win one of the 3 gift vouchers sponsored by Ivan. And let's gather all the people, 26. That's great. Okay, let's get started. Again, answer fast to get more points. What is the main repository for libraries? Is it CRAN in R and PyPy in Python? Is it CRAN in R and PyPer in Python? Is it Digger in R and PyPy in Python? You can choose. Is it 1, 2, or 3? You have 5 more seconds left. 3, 1, and go. Time's up. Most of the people were right. It is CRAN in R and PyPy in Python. And there are actually 2 really cool resources. Like there's a book where you, like if you want to develop your own Python library, there's a book, it's called, I think, Python Packages. And there is a blog post that I co-wrote on writing your own R package. It's kind of shameless self-promo, but I often go back to it actually when I update my R package. So I find it really helpful, and probably you will do so as well. And I will post them in the YouTube chat in a bit in case you want to look it up. Okay, excellent. So let's go for the leaderboard and see who did best. Great. We have Tiger Baby as the first. Gia, you're again in the top ones, right? And Metis as well. Or Metis? Sorry for mispronouncing your name if I did. Okay, let's go to the next question. Again, answer fast to get more points. Can you use R in a Jupyter notebook? And if you watched closely to what Ryan said, you should know the answer. So is it no, Jupyter is only for Python? Or is it yes, of course you can? Or is it Jupyter is only for R? What do you think? Is it only for Python? Is it only for R? Or is it for both? And time's up. See, most people paid close attention. It's obviously that you can use it, like you can use both languages in a Jupyter notebook. And how this works is actually really cool because it kind of gives you, like, you just use RPy2 to do it, and we'll show you how this works in a second. So this is a Jupyter notebook, and you have in the first block, you have Python as you know it. In the second one, you call RPy2, the package that you had in your first quiz. And then you put the percentage signs R and just write your regular R code, and it calls it, and it works as a term. And as a fun fact, in case you didn't know it, you can also call Julia in a Jupyter notebook, but that was kind of nasty. That's why we didn't include it. But the name Jupyter is Julia, Python, and R. So obviously you can call all 3 languages there. So let's see who did best. It's taking its time a bit. Well, Fighty Fox, again, up in the first, and Metis and Gia as well. You're all doing really well. Let's go for the next question to see if you, again, watch close attention to Rhian's talk. who talked about indices and index, and with which Python and R start. So it's again the same game. Do answer quickly. With which index does an array start? In R, is it 1? In Python, is it 0? In R, is it 0? In Python, is it 1? Or is there no such a thing as a specific index? What do you think? Is there a difference or is there no difference? And if there's a difference, which one is it? Time's up. Most people paid close attention. Rhian, you did a really good job in introducing all these things. So it's obviously R starts with 1, which is, for me, as someone who comes from the R world, super intuitive. And Python starts with 0, which is, for someone who probably comes from a more computer sciencey background, also super intuitive, but which always confuses me if I do something in Python, because you have to pay close attention that things start with a 1. Okay, let's go to the leaderboard. It takes some time to calculate the things, and then we'll see. Flighty Fox, again, number 1, you're doing really well. And Errol is making its steps up to the to the top leaderboard, and then we have again Gia, who is in the number, like in the top 3. But you still have a chance with the last question, which is about identifying the type or the class of the variable. So how would you do that in R and Python? Is it what type in R and type in Python? Is it class in R and type in Python? Or is it simply calling get class in both languages? What do you think? What are the commands that you use to know the type of a variable in R and Python? You have 1 more second and time's up. Let's see. Well done, everyone. It is class in R and type in Python. So with this, we come to our very, very last leaderboard, and to see who are the winners and who also won one of the 3 vouchers. So Errol, congratulations. Very well done. You won one of the vouchers, and Flighty Fox as well. And as well did Ixa. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. So congratulations to all of you. Feel free to reach out to Munich at PyLadies to learn more about the prizes. And with this, we're already coming to an end with our event today. It's been a really nice time having everyone here. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks so much for asking interesting questions, for paying close attention to the talks of both our presenters. Thanks so much for Deena and Rhian for talking us through how to use both Python and R, telling us about Diffify, which I think is a really, really cool tool and that I will definitely use, and I cannot wait for the Python version to come out, and also MLflow, which seems to be really a cool and amazing asset to have. I think it would be great if everyone of the organizing team could come back on the stage, if that's possible, to say kind of bye, because it's a joint endeavor that we all co-organize together. So thank you so much for joining us. And I do hope, like on a personal note, that there will be more meetings like this. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to all of us or any of us.
Just, I promise the slides, the code from Deena. Now I'm posting now. So feel free to take a look. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, too. It was a pleasure to participate from my side, and more Python and R together.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a nice evening or nice day.
Thank you everyone for joining us. It was a pleasure for us to have this number of people. Thank you, and it was very great to have to bring together the 2 communities. Thank you. Bye bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye bye.